Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. And as always, I'm your host, the Game Master. And today we're talking about the Golden Age, Black Canary, the Mad Hatter, and all sorts of things. But before we get into all of that, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell for notifications, and as always, be sure to leave a comment because that really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. There's a great community here, and it's all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. With all that said, let's dive in. Prologue to today's story takes place in 1947. The hero, formerly known as Superman Red, is on the Spruce Goose when the Penguin and his men show up. The Penguin has a catastrophic irrational attraction to anything even vaguely having to do with birds. So, with a name like the Spruce Goose, he must have it. And the result is basically Die Hard in the sky. Superman Red can take out a human goon pretty easily, but what makes this hard is that the goons are able to shoot a passenger before Red can stop them. One of the other passengers on the Spruce Goose is Dinah Drake, who changes into her secret identity as the Black Canary. She helps out, but then is captured by the Penguin, who again really likes her because her name is Canary. One by one, Red defeats all of the Penguin's goons, then the Penguin himself, but not without a few of the passengers getting shot in the process. So the newspapers play up those who were hurt and ignore those who were saved. And Tex Thompson urges America to get rid of its Supermen. Thompson also tours America giving speeches about how there's a new age coming and it needs new heroes. He calls on America's scientists to harness the power of the atom and create that hero. Meanwhile, German spies still operating in America enter a homeless shelter where Paul Kirk is staying, and they start to gun down everyone there with Tommy guns in an effort to keep the Manhunter from revealing their plan. But Paul Kirk jumps through a window and runs off into the night. And Dan the Dynamite is selected by Tex Thompson to be the man of tomorrow, which is all part of the plan. And that brings us to the main plot of today's game, which takes place in 1948. John Redbridge used to be known as Superman Red, but thanks to the ongoing investigations surrounding his potential ties to communism, he's quit using the moniker as well as the costume for all the good it's done him. He and his new girlfriend, Black Canary, are still being harassed on a regular basis. And Tex Thompson is the one behind it. He's pushing several of the world's most powerful superheroes to retire or leave America. And in some cases, evidence is falsified and they are exterminated outright. And while Thompson is doing these things behind the scenes, in the spotlight, he introduces Dan the Dynamite as the man of tomorrow. He also promotes the Atom, aka Al Pratt, who's been developing powers due to radiation exposure, and Robot Man, whose killing streak has made him more robot than man these days. In Gotham City, the widow of Alan Scott is a former villain named Rose Canton Scott. She had a hard enough time resisting the urge to commit crimes. Now she doesn't know how she's going to feed her two babies, Jennifer Lynn and Todd, now that Alan is dead. So she robs a bank only to be thwarted by Batman. Courts decide she's unfit to be a mother, and Alan Scott's twin children are placed in an orphanage. Batman also has his hands full with the Riddler, who is terrorizing Gotham City. So while Batman focuses on that, the Black Canary is picking up the slack. which is how she catches the eye of Jervis Tetch, who was a meek and socially awkward scientist experimenting with mind control equipment. He falls in love with the beautiful Black Canary. He's frustrated upon hearing that she has a boyfriend, so Tetch substituted one of his Omni gadgets for a mind reading device and discovered what the weaknesses in their relationship were, then exploited those, befriending her and trying to get her to break up with Red, who, again, now goes by the name John Redbridge. He also made it his top priority to impress her. He dressed up as the Mad Hatter character from his favorite book and set off with a bunch of flowers ready to make his move. His attempts at impressing Dinah involved him brainwashing people to pretend that he was a man about town or a celebrity. Dinah was charmed by Jervis, but misinterpreted his gesture as him trying to cheer her up. Once she was in a better mood, she mended her relationship and got back together with Redbridge, much to Tetch's disapproval. So Jervis Tetch, now calling himself the Mad Hatter, uses a mind-controlled device on Black Canary and kidnaps her. John Redbridge is soon on the trail, where he encounters the Mad Hatter in an amusement park with an Alice in Wonderland section. The Mad Hatter has brainwashed people to dress up as Wonderland characters and kill John Redbridge, who Tetch refers to as the Red King. As a brief side note, Superman Red once inspired the stories of King Arthur in our game world, and in some classic bits of literature, the Red King is King Arthur. But I digress. Tetch has arranged a giant chessboard, and the other chess pieces are people Tetch has kidnapped and placed a mind control headband on. The first thing the Red King does wrong is he doesn't move like a chess piece is allowed to move. So that square turns out to be a trap door. The Mad Hatter's hope is that the Red King will fall to his death, but instead, the Red King just floats there using his flight power. The disembodied voice of the Mad Hatter screams that Red King is cheating. On Red King's turn, he floats over to a huge, burly criminal that the Mad Hatter is using as a literal pawn. He even dressed him up like a pawn, wearing an all-white costume. Red King removes the mind control headband with a card wedged in the side, and when he does, this henchman is killed. The device has a tamper-proof mechanism that electrocutes the hostage if you try to remove the gadget. The Mad Hatter laughs and says, "You have to play by my rules now." Superman Red wants to pull the Mad Hatter's spine out through his mouth, but he doesn't want the Black Canary to come to harm. So he grits his teeth and plays along. Thankfully, Superman Red has an intelligence of 16, while the Mad Hatter has an intelligence of 7. So when they play chess, Red needs a 4 or better on two 10-sided dice, while the Mad Hatter needs to roll a 21 or better. So Red wins the chess game, fair and square, and confronts the Mad Hatter. Hatter laments on controlling Dinah, but viewed it as necessary to keep her. Black Canary is freed from the Hatter's spell and rejoins her sweetheart. After, he is forced to acknowledge that his Alice is nothing more than a mind-controlled puppet. The Mad Hatter, trapped under a Jabberwocky statue after his fight with Red, quotes Alice in Wonderland with all the sadness of the Mock Turtle. Sad Hatter says, would not, could not, would not, could not, oh, could not join the dance. That's when Commissioner Gordon and the Gotham City Police Department arrive. The Hatter is taken to Arkham Asylum, and John and Dinah go home. Which brings us to the epilogue of this one, which takes place in the American Southwest, where Daniel Dunbar, also known as Dan the Dynamite, is sealed in a metal canister. He is at ground zero for an atomic explosion. Tex Thompson watches alongside a group of German scientists that were brought to America via a secret project called Operation Paperclip. The scientists look at their instruments and say the vitals look good. Just then, the metal canister is unscrewed from the inside, and Dan Dunbar steps out. No longer Dan the Dynamite. Now he's larger and more muscular. He has the strength of 1,000 men, invulnerability, flight, and his fists have the percussive force of an atomic bomb. The young man with the glint of sun in his eyes and in his smile, the amazing being who sprang from the ashes of the atomic test and into America's hearts, but only because they have no idea that Dan's brain was replaced with the brain of a certain evil German dictator, and he is well on his way to ruling the world. But that's a story for another day. We had a good time playing this one. We hope that you had a good time playing it. As always, be sure to smash that like button, ring the bell for notifications, and leave us a comment because that really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. From everyone here at the longest running superhero role-playing game on Earth, we hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and we will see you in the next adventure. Bye.